What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Redemption with Jaden, and let's go ahead and get right into it. Look at the deck that we're playing today. Oh wait, there is no deck here. There's not even a card highlighted. We're doing something different this week. We are going to take a look at kind of my process. We're gonna get some thoughts from Jaden's floor. Thoughts? No, just kidding. That was Tyler's thing. Actually, I think he did thoughts about Jaden's floor. Which honestly, it's just wood. Not that exciting. We're gonna kind of take a step back and, before the game, gonna kind of look at the deck building process that I go through when I'm just kind of building a deck from scratch. Sometimes I take a deck list that either someone else posted or one that maybe I played a while ago, or maybe a classic deck or something that I want to revisit and adjust to the current meta or the current playing style. If I'm going from like classic to rotation, or if I'm taking someone else's deck, kind of adjusting it to my play style, and maybe adding some things that I think would be better, or kind of making some changes just to try things out and see how it works. That's all well and good, and that's a very good place to start if you're not really sure at all about deck building. The other option you can do for something like that, if you're just getting started, would be to just go out and buy one of the contender decks or the challenger decks from Your Turn Games. Or even just starting with a starter deck if you're just kind of right at that basic level of learning the game, and you want to just take the kind of next baby step. An easy way to do that would just be to start with either the I or J starter decks. Depending on how late in the future you're watching this, the K and L starter decks, which will be coming out presumably in late 2022. They'll be available at Nationals in 2022, but they'll be available after that at some point, hopefully not too long afterwards, but it'll be at least a little while. Anyways, taking one of those decks and just kind of fleshing it out with some cards that you've got in packs, some cards that you maybe want to get if you're not sure what to invest in yet. Lackey is a great way to kind of figure out what singles you might want to buy, or kind of what sets you might want to get packs from, because they have certain themes or something like that. So that's certainly a good place to start. But now, what if you want to build a deck completely from scratch? You have this idea, maybe you saw a different deck, but you kind of want to try that out, but maybe do something a little bit different, or there's a particular theme that there aren't a whole lot of deck lists out there. I'd be a little bit surprised, because there are a lot of deck lists out there that you can use and reference. But if you really just want to do it on your own, start from scratch, I'm going to kind of go through my process in doing that. At least for the offense, and just kind of an offense I had in mind. The defense, I might do a little bit of kind of borrowing from another deck that I had already built, because that's certainly one of the approaches you can take. Is I have this idea for an offense, I don't really know a defense to put with it, I'll just use this other one that I've already tried out, and kind of make it fit in there. You can adjust it a little bit to kind of synergize with the offense a little bit better. Or you can, like, as you're going, and as I'm going in this video, I might be like, oh, actually, this other defense might be a little bit better, might be something I want to try. And that's actually, and that's perfectly okay. Although I will say that you might be better off just kind of focusing on one thing at a time. Like if I've already played this defense, or somebody else has already played this defense and they seem to like it, seems to do pretty good, maybe it won some tournaments or something and they posted about it, then you can just kind of slot that defense in there just to give you something reliable, kind of a baseline to test out your offense. It's like when you're making adjustments to your deck, it's kind of the same principle. You don't want to make too many adjustments all at the same time, because then you don't have a control. You don't know, like, oh, okay, wait, was this the card that was the problem, or was this one? Of course, I mean, the cards interact in a certain way, and you're going to kind of notice during the game that, oh, this card in particular wasn't as valuable or didn't work the way that I was hoping it would. And that's going to help you see that. But if you think the problem is just kind of an overall like deck synergy thing, then if you change too many things at the same time, then you're not going to see where the problem is necessarily, or what cards you can afford to cut, or what cards, kinds of cards you should add if you need to add more consistency or more power. Don't change up too many things at once. Change up just a few cards, play another game or two, and just kind of see how that feels and really focus on those cards. But anyways, we're not going to really be talking about adjusting decks now. We're going to be focusing on building a deck. Before we dive into that, I just want to make a quick housekeeping announcement, I guess. Next week is going to be the first Thursday of the month, April 7th, which I normally will do live streams on the first Thursday. That's kind of my planned schedule. But this month it's not going to work for me. I'm going out of town on Thursday night and will not be available to do a live stream. So we're going to push it back 2 weeks, because the week after that is going to be Holy Week, and that Thursday will be Maundy Thursday, and I will likely be busy, or I imagine a lot of you may be busy as well if you go to Maundy Thursday services, or if you just have other things going on, being that it is Holy Week. Certainly understandable. I'll actually have to double check if there is a Maundy Thursday service at my church. They might just be doing Good Friday. Either way, I didn't really want to interfere with that at all. So the plan right now is April 21st is when I'm going to be doing the live stream for April. So you can be aware of that. You've got plenty of heads up. So I hope to see all of you there. The plan right now is to play another game with Luke to kind of finish off the saga of redemption that he's been writing articles for and putting on Land of Redemption. There is the third era, which will be coming out in a couple weeks, and then that the following week will be the live stream where Luke and I are going to do something a little bit different to kind of cap off the whole thing and send it off on a good note. So I think that's going to be really fun and exciting, and I hope to see you all there. All right, what are we doing? What kind of deck are we going to build today? I had this idea. It wasn't necessarily just my idea. It was something that I thought of as I was seeing other ideas being thrown around on the Discord, and just things that people were talking about. And this is, I mean, really where a lot of my decks come from, is just like people talking about things and being like, oh, that's a pretty cool idea. How can I mix that with something else, or how can I kind of expand on that? And that's really how the game works, is that either you're looking through cards, or you're just talking with people and seeing what people are trying, and talking about, people have been talking lately about an Armor of God deck on Discord, and thinking like, oh man, I should really touch on that at some point. That's not what we're going to be doing tonight, today, whenever you're watching this. Any time of day is okay for Redemption with Jaden. It comes out at noon, so I suppose probably today would be the most all-encompassing time. But today I think I'm going to be putting together a Choose the Blocker and potentially Fool's deck. I think that's kind of what I'm the idea that I want to try out, and it's something that I think would be kind of fun. It'll be a little bit gimmicky, maybe not a competitive deck necessarily, but that's kind of what I've been hearing a few people throw around, and I kind of wanted to try it out. So first, I'm going to go into Lackey. I'm going to make a deck name. I start out by categorizing my decks as either Type 1 or Type 2, so that they show up in my names or list, or the folder, kind of all together. And we'll just call it we'll call it Choose the fool. I don't know. Just come up with names that are going to help me remember what the deck is doing. So starting out, I always look for the cards that kind of come to mind first, or that are going to be kind of central to the strategy, and then kind of build around that. And then the last thing I normally do is going through Dominance and Lost Souls, because those are cards that, obviously Dominance you don't have to include, Lost Souls you do have to include, and Dominance they're so powerful that you want to maximize those out in your decks. So that's kind of what I end with, because you want to have them in your deck, and you want to have a certain number of them in your deck, which means that you want to optimize them based on the style of deck that you're building. Also, I haven't rehearsed this really at all, so hopefully it doesn't go too long. At some point I might kind of do a little bit of figuring to actually end up with a legal deck at the end of this that you guys can look at and try out, whatever. I'm not going to actually play a game with it, or at least not for this video, but I might takes a little bit of time to kind of cut things out, and then I'll explain it after I've kind of figured it out, and then I'll have a deck at the end of the video. That's my goal. I also don't want to make the video too long, so and putting a deck together can be a bit of a time commitment, even for someone like me who's built a lot of decks and knows a lot of cards. So first thing I'm going to do actually here is just go over to the filters, and in legality I'm just going to make it contain rotate, so that it is always or only rotation cards, because I want to build a rotation deck. Obviously if you don't want to build a rotation deck, then don't do that, but that's what I'm going to be doing. And the cards that we're going to be building the deck around are the choose the blocker cards, like Elijah, Zacchaeus, and Simon the Zealous. So basically the idea is to choose the blocker and then make it very difficult for your opponent to do anything with that blocker. So you're going to want initiative, and you're going to want a battle winner of some sort, and if you can make it reusable, then that's kind of ideal. Also, we're going to be a little bit splashed here. As you can see, we've got 3 brigades going on offense already. I guess 4 if you include the purple and clay on Simon, but you're mostly going to be using the clay side, because once you convert him to meek, then you can use the choose ability. But I guess you could also reveal a good dominant. So we'll see where the deck takes us, I guess. So I think one of the best ways to guarantee you win a battle is with a cannot be negated enhancement. And the ones that go great with these heroes, Elijah has tested by fire, so if you can choose a magician, priest, or prophet to block, then you get this battle winner that cannot be negated. I also I like to come up here and sort by type for I guess both the deck and the cards. Let's see. I guess if you're not really sure what cards fit in the theme, also, like, you can go through and I can just be like, okay, special ability contains choose. That way I can see, who are the heroes that choose the blocker. I am familiar with them, so I can just know the names off the top of my head, but you may be wanting to build a deck that that does something that you don't necessarily know what all the best cards are for. And we're certainly going to be using this for other things later on, but just as an example, I would also be reminded that, I could add Bathsheba to the deck, and I'll probably want to put David in here, just based on the direction that I think I want the deck to go, and she's purple, so she kind of fits with Simon in there, so maybe we'll end up doing that. There's also Jude, who he only gets to choose heretics, which aren't very common right now, so he's probably not going to be worth it. And then there's Jephthah's daughter. She might be worthwhile. Jephthah is kind of hard to guarantee initiative with, and I think that the ones that we have are pretty solid options. Like you don't want to have too many of the same kind of effect because it basically means that Elijah and Zacchaeus are the same hero. That I don't want to. If I have one, then the other is kind of a dead card. If you see what I'm saying, like you don't want to have too many, but you want to have enough so that you can make sure you get them when you want them. So that's, I think, good enough for kind of those type of effect of heroes. I guess we might as well go ahead and grab David here while we're at it. I think just because we're not really in white, I think David Outcast Refuge is probably our best bet here. I mean, David Hard After God could search out some decent battle winners that would fit fairly well. Like we could do Royal Parade, that we can play on Simon. I think I'll go with Outcast Refuge for now, and we can switch it up later if we kind of feel like we want to go that direction. I'll give us some wiggle room. So the other way that we can win battles here pretty easily is with Authority of Christ on Simon. We'll use the fancy Ultra Rare Plus version. So that's another purple option, and it doesn't have to be played on Simon. It just makes it cannot be negated if you do play it on Simon and he's meek. But if I'm including Authority of Christ, I probably want to have a little bit of speed in there too. So Matthew seems like a decent option. And if you're using a variety of heroes like this, we're pretty splashed, and we're going to want to make sure that we get the hero that we want early on. So I think the Angel of the Winds is going to be a great inclusion for this deck because it's going to help us get the right hero in the right situation. So we'll go ahead and put him in there, especially with all the cloud heroes that we've already added, like Elijah and David. I guess those are the only ones so far, but we'll probably add some more. Another good way to win battles, and one of the things that I thought about that kind of inspired the way I wanted this deck to work. Jared or him on Discord, he mentioned lately this whole Eyes to See interaction and how you could use Sea of Glass to activate a star ability and then cycle it back to the top of your deck. I guess use Sea of Glass to put on bottom and then use Eyes to See to cycle it back to the top of your deck so you can use the star ability every turn. This is a pretty cool idea, and I kind of wanted to incorporate that in this deck, not with Sea of Glass, but instead to use we're going to use Faith of David to it says during battle while an evil character is blocking, you may discard this to add a cloud hero or a royal hero to battle. So we're going to have that. We're going to do Joshua the Conqueror. Overall, very good hero who lets you underdeck an evil territory class card. That's kind of the one that I'm focusing on. Obviously, the rest of them, the options, Fortress, Site, Artifact, are very good too. But since we're going to be trying to choose our own fools to block, then we can put Joshua in there to make that happen. And then we're going to need, I guess at this point, probably Faith. It's one of my least favorite cards to search for because you just type in Faith and all of these other things show up and you got to scroll for it. Just so much work, oh, man. And don't forget to save the deck as you're going. Lackey does crash once in a while, and you definitely don't want to lose your progress, especially because you might forget what cards you had already added and that kind of stuff. So Faith helps us to get to Faith of David, get to some of our heroes, and then get Faith of David back. And then, of course, we need Eyes to See. And this is... Now I'm kind of wondering if the LOC... Not... Well, if David Hard After God would be better than Outcast Refuge, because it will allow us to play Eyes to See here, wherever it went there. Because it's green or white. Otherwise, we need Elijah so far as our only other option. So yeah, I think that's probably, I don't know. If we've got Joshua though, we kind of want David to be red. But if we had Jehoshaphat, then I suppose that would do it. All right, let's do that. So we'll take out David. We'll take out Outcast Refuge. We'll put in Heart After God. We'll add Jehoshaphat, who can bounce and band to David, and that Joshua can exchange for. We will add Jeshua because he works with the Eyes to See combo, where Eyes to See top decks itself, and then you get to draw it with Jeshua. And so I think that this, so it's kind of coming together how we want it. We'll want a few other cards to add consistency. So that's one of the things you want to think about, like what consistency cards are in the brigades that I'm building around. So we've got the Emmaus Road, if I can spell it. That's green, teal, and gold. So we've got a few gold heroes. We've got Elijah so far in green, and then our teal is just on Jeshua. So that's a card that usually fits pretty well in most decks these days. So that's going to help us to get to Eyes to See, and then also any of the other star cards that we have going on, like Jehoshaphat and David and such. Let's see, and then I think we might as well go ahead and add another battle winner, one that David can go grab, and that's going to work well with our the brigades that we have so far. So I think Royal Parade is probably a reasonable add at this point. So right now I'm at 10 heroes, which that's probably a good stopping point for now. I might think of a few later that I want to add, and I kind of have to build around that. Because we're so splashed, Noah might be a good option here. He adds another green prophet or OT prophet for Eyes to See. So we'll have to think about that. I guess technically we're at 11 heroes if you count Zacchaeus. I forgot that he was sitting up here with the dual alignment character or cards, I guess. So we may also have to kind of adjust some things like Bathsheba. Maybe she'll end up going to the reserve. But for now, I like to start out by just putting cards into the deck, and then we'll cut stuff out later. Here are all the things that I want to consider, and then start trimming it down from there, kind of figuring out what's contributing to the strategy and what is not. So let's go ahead and throw a Jeremiah in there as well. He's Chad France, See the Tree. He was talking about some of these add to battles stuff or like battle winners that are very hard to stop. One of them being Faith of David and Jeremiah as kind of a way to if you go out with Jeremiah and you add a hero that like Aminadab or something through banding. I can't remember exactly what series of cards he was saying in this combo, but it's basically just using a hero to take out their evil character with something like Faith of David to add them to battle, and then tossing their next. It's a very solid way. It kind of cannot be interrupted to the battle winner. So I think that he's going to be a worthwhile inclusion here, and he's another green prophet or OT prophet that we can use Eyes to See on, and also Emmaus Road. Let's see here. And I think another card that I want is Faith of Samuel. It fits with kind of the green and the clay. We want the fancy version, alternate border version. So cool. It fits with the green and the clay, and allows us to trigger some more of our strong hero abilities that we want, especially like Matthew. He's great if you can bounce, or if you can band him in, and David if you can band him in. And if we're choosing the blocker with Elijah or Simon and convert Simon to clay, then getting that Faith of Samuel play to either get a draw or activate some abilities seems pretty good. So it seems like we're pretty good on good enhancements right now so far as well. So let's think about what utility cards we want for this offense. I can't really think of too many that are going to give us too many problems, I guess. Let's go ahead and just look at artifacts. You type contains artifacts. There, yeah, not plural. So just sometimes I literally just sit here and look through cards, just kind of go down and I recognize cards as I see them, so it's going to or like I'm at the point where I don't have to read every card to figure out what it does. So that definitely helps. One of the things, or I guess it helps me just kind of going through them. I think the cross is going to fit well in this deck. It does hamper our Authority of Christ a little bit, but I guess also tested by fire. That's something to consider, but I do like the ability to, for one, restrict dominance because all these choose the blocker heroes are kind of vulnerable to dominant blocks like Doubt, Christian Martyr, and Falling Away. I guess Elijah's protected from Christian Martyr, but other than that, they don't band themselves, and so you have to put them at the end of a banding chain, which is usually kind of difficult, especially if we're just kind of shoving them all into the same deck. So I do kind of want a way to restrict dominance here. Maybe Fall of Man would be better. But I kind of like the idea of having the cross in there as kind of an alternative win condition with Simon or Matthew. But if we only have Authority of Christ to really win the battle with them, we do have the Faith of David and Joshua thing though. So we can put it in there for now. It can just be one of the cards that we cut if we get too big. Book of the Law is going to be a good one. I like the promo version. That's gonna help bounce the heroes like David and Matthew and Simon that we convert to Meek to activate their abilities. David's Harp is kind of tempting, but probably not worth it in this particular build. There aren't too many artifacts that I think this deck really needs for the offense, at least. Great White Throne is another option in making sure you get the heroes out that you want that match your enhancements, and that if you want certain abilities like make sure you get Joshua out, or do you want Joshua in play? So we can maybe put that in there for now too. We might want to do Sea of Glass just in case for that little combo. I'm not sure if it's absolutely necessary. It might be a little bit too gimmicky, or since we're not really focused on it, then it's probably not going to work out quite as well. I think the one artifact I can think of that do want to include that will kind of work out with the strategy that we're doing is the Bronze Laver, because this means that if we have one of the fools stuck in our hand somehow, maybe there's already a fool in their territory when we draw it off the top, or we draw it by an ability, then we can use the Bronze Laver to place it on the bottom, and then we can use Eyes to See to set it up to the top, so we get to use it next turn. So I think that's satisfactory for the offense, at least for now. We do have a couple of Tabernacle and Temple artifacts, so we might want one of those temples. Let's see. I think Herod's Temple might make the most sense. I'm just going to double check that it will. The Herod's Temple artifacts are different from the other. Well, pretty much all of the temple artifacts are different. So you definitely want to check in the Ordeer, the official Redemption Dictionary of Identifiers and References, or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it stands for. I suppose I could scroll to the top of it and find out. But yeah, Book of the Law is not a Herod's Temple artifact, so might want to Consider something different for that slot. Hey, I was correct. Official Redemption Dictionary of Identifiers and References. Might want to consider a different temple. I don't really. None of these, or none of the other ones really fit. I mean, Solomon's Temple would work for Jeremiah, but he's the only Solomon's Temple hero we have. We have Jeshua that works with Zerubbabel's Temple, so maybe that's the one that makes the most sense out of those. Maybe we don't necessarily need a temple, especially if we cut out the cross. Yeah, we'll just leave it out for now, and if we find we want it later with the, if we put in more artifacts or something, then we can put it in. But for now, I think that's okay. So the defense, we're going to want some fools for sure. So the way that I think we're going to find our best options are just by going into the filter that identifier contains fool. We're going to see all of our options available now. No foolish builder so far, so not yet anyway until phase 2. If you haven't seen that one yet, it was spoiled on Land of Redemption in Gabe's article about some of the favorite cards of the playtesters. So definitely check that one out. So I think the ones that we're going to want to focus on are the ones that have the best abilities and the ones that are going to give initiative to our choose the blocker characters. Those are kind of the main criteria. So we've got Zacchaeus, who's a 5/6. Simon is a 2/3 or 3/2 if you don't convert him, and then Elijah is a 5/7. So Distressing People is going to give initiative to all of them. Ambushed Moabites will not. Foolish Edomites will give initiative to all of them. Conspiring Servants will not, and Doomed Canaanites will give initiative to all of them. Even if you're choosing the blocker, whoever did not play the last card in battle has initiative when it comes to a stalemate or a mutual destruction. So usually it's going to be the hero, because even though I chose your blocker, you still played that card in battle. So I think Doomed Canaanites is definitely one of the better ones, and Distressing People is probably the best one. So those are the two that I am kind of leaning toward, but I kind of also wanted to do more of a Crimson defense. Foolish Edomites is kind of a tempting one as well. That might be better than Doomed Canaanites. There's also the option of putting Doomed Canaanites in reserve and just doing a defense that utilizes King of Tyrus. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. And I mean, we don't necessarily have to do one that fits the other brigades in our deck. I mean, basically the idea is we just want it to be able to block in a pinch if we need to. But usually, I mean, if our deck is working right, which, I mean, we can assume that it's fair to assume that your deck will work right, because that's the way that you're trying to, or that's the goal you're trying to accomplish. And if you don't accomplish that, then the deck isn't going to work anyway. So that I think is allows us a little bit of flexibility. If I did want to do Distressing People and Doomed Canaanites and still use a Crimson defense, I would be okay with not using Foolish Edomites. Let's just put all three of them in there for now, because if we're really going to be building around this, making this the entire kind of focus of the deck, then we want to make sure we hit those options right away. As early as possible. We increase our odds of having one in our opening hand, so that we have, an opening rescue that we want here. You do have to be careful, because they will hurt you if you can't utilize them in your own deck for whatever reason. But that's why we're trying to underdeck them with Joshua and with the Bronze Laver. So, what are we going to? How are we going to keep building around them? My initial idea was to just borrow the Crimson defense from. Here, can't remember what deck it was the Disciples deck, and then I think I switched it up to the Gospel Gold deck. I used that defense in both of those decks in the Lackey Grand Prix, and really liked it. So I think that's kind of what I want to lean toward. I also get the extra utility with Zacchaeus that way. I can use him as an evil character if need be. So I think that's what I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna hop over to the Land of Redemption here real quick, just to look that up, so I don't have to open it in Lackey and kind of go back and forth between the decks. It's definitely an easy way to do it. If you guys want to go over to Land of Redemption, it's under Redemption with Jade and Gospel Gold from March 17th, 2022. That way you can look along as well, because I'm just going to keep that open while I'm in Lackey here, and I want to keep Lackey here visible for y'all. So the evil characters there had some dual alignment ones to go along with my Zacchaeus. So Judas can be a hero in a pinch as well. Man with Withered Hand. There's the Repentant Thief. And we already got Zacchaeus, and I just realized I didn't have Delivered in here. Do I need that? It would be kind of nice, because you can get a Bronze Lava right away, or Great White Throne right away. It's also a card that can trigger Great White Throne if I use it to activate something else, and then I can activate on the Great White Throne and banish it from my discard pile. It seems like a card that should be in there. I don't have too many heroes that can use it though, but you can just see how good of a card it is, and I'm considering putting it in there, even though it's not necessarily going to fit super well in this deck. So we'll just put it in there for now, and we'll take it out later if we don't need it. So we had the False Prophet. We used this version. Simon the Magician, who, like I said, still seems pretty good, even though he doesn't have that many cards to play, and he'll get more in Phase 2, but then, if we also see a Peter and a John who weren't in Phase 1, but we can probably expect to see in Phase 2, then that might be tricky, I guess, or trickier if they're more common. But I think it'll still be worth playing. Plus, he's a Samaritan, so get that fancy Psykar synergy and Samaritan Water synergy. And then we had Nebuchadnezzar, who, like he says, is a dual alignment character, but he begins as an evil character, so he's an evil character, and that will probably be fixed next time I'm making any updates to Lackey, and I remember that. And we've got the Deceiver, and then enhancements. We have the Wages of Sin, and Betrayal, Strike the Shepherd. That one, not sure if that's going to stick around in here because we don't have a way to protect our own heroes as of yet. We could put an Ark of Salvation to do that. Balaam's Prophecy, which of course fits well with the Jeshua in here and all the other star cards we've got going on. Dissension in Antioch. Hypocrisy. And Seized by Babylon. So this is the defense that we've got so far. It's a little bit kind of all over the place, and we've got it's a little bit bigger now with all the fools, so we'll probably have to kind of make some changes, kind of some cuts here and there. Now I'm up to 41 cards, and usually I don't put things in reserve until the end as well. I mean, that's kind of like if I know early on that something is going to go in reserve, like if I'm playing Jairus, Jairus's daughter is probably going to go into reserve. But if not, then I'll usually wait until the end and kind of put cards from my deck into the reserve, kind of whatever I can access the most. And that's one of the ways that you can use the reserve, to basically be like, okay, I want these cards in my deck, but not as much as the rest of the cards, and I can access them pretty easily from reserve, so I'm just going to put them over there. The other way to kind of think of your reserve is like, this card is going to be useful in some cases, but not all, and in the cases that it's going to be useful, it's going to be very useful. So I'm going to put it in my reserve, and it's going to be kind of like a sideboard card that in certain matchups I'm going to want to pull it out and be very useful. But in my opinion, the most effective reserves are just the ones that are kind of an extension of your deck that you're able to kind of pull out as you need them. And I think every card should be viable, or should be effective in just about every game. There can be some exceptions to that, especially if it's like a really good card in certain matchups, kind of based on the meta, and there are other considerations to it, but that's just kind of my general opinion on it. So we're at 41 cards right now, which with 7 dominance and 7 lost souls, that's going to put us up to 55, which is, that would be a legal deck. You could just add a hopper to it and make it a nice even 56, or I could just add 8 dominance and 8 lost souls and make it a nice even 57. But we do still have all of this reserve space that we have yet to utilize, so we could still add a few more cards, and I think that there are probably a few that I will want to add that I just haven't thought about yet. But for now, let's go ahead and take a look at the lost souls and the dominance to kind of figure out what we want to do there. So just do type contains dominant, and we'll go ahead and take a look. We'll go ahead and start with I like to go in order of how they appear in my deck lists, and I start out with the dual alignment dominance. And the way that Lackey works when you're making a deck is that it will, if you export as TXT, this little button here, that'll give you a text file of your deck list, but it does it in the order that you added cards to it. So to kind of help myself out a little bit when I am going to post the deck list that goes along with my videos, I like to kind of be intentional about this stuff as much as possible to give me the right order. So if I can find Chronicles here, we'll go ahead and start out with that one, because I start out with the dual alignment dominance that I know I'm probably going to be using, which are Chronicles and 3 woes. We might keep Crowd's Choice in there, or slide that in to make sure we get to what we want. So we'll go ahead and put that in there, and then 3 woes, and then Angel of the Lord that's pretty good with Choose the Blocker. So I think that I want to put that in there as well. If that's going to be kind of one of the edge case dominance where I might cut it if I decide I want the other dominance, but I just like to put it all in there and then take it down, trim it down from there. I also just about made a mistake there putting in the New Testament, or a New Testament Angel of the Lord, when I'm playing David Hard After God, who searches for a good OT card. So I'm going to want an Old Testament Angel of the Lord, so we'll go ahead and put the Exodus 2020 special promo in there. It'll look pretty sweet, so easy mistake to make just by going on the art, because some of these do look pretty cool. Let's see, don't think we really need Harvest Time or Grapes, so I think we're safe to go with the go ahead and grab our Son of God, the one that we want. No Old Testament Son of God yet. Maybe we'll see that soon, but I like the 2016 one, so we'll go ahead and put that one in there. I think it matches well with the Second Coming, kind of the same color scheme. So let's see, they kind of got the same vibe to them, so I like matching those up. And then so far we're at 6 dominance. Falling Away definitely works well with Choose the Blocker. Do we want Christian Martyr? I'm leaning towards yes, but I'm kind of also leaning towards wanting shipwreck. I guess we'll just put it in there, and we'll look at them all once I kind of get them all in there. I think that these are the dominants that are going to make the most sense in the deck, and we'll now kind of have to narrow it down from these 9 to 7. Or 8 if we do want to just do 57. It's perfectly okay to test out your deck at 57, and then if you realize in testing, like, oh, I don't use this dominant quite as much, I don't use these cards quite as much, okay, I can now trim it down to 50 or 51, 52, wherever you want to play it. It doesn't really matter unless you're trying to be ultra competitive, in which case 50 is going to be kind of the target, what you want to go for there. So some of the considerations for these dominants are the meta, and also just the versatility within your deck. Of course, with all the choose the blocker stuff falling away, is going to be very versatile in this deck, because I can either win a battle with it on defense, or I can convert one of their heroes in their territory and then choose the blocker. Convert it to a brigade that they don't have, and then choose the blocker and get an offensive battle winner out of it that way. Christian Martyr, I probably wouldn't consider if it weren't for the fact that the defense utilizes Wages of Sin, so I can go ahead and grab Christian Martyr kind of whenever I need it, whenever I'm ready. But I do kind of feel like it is one of the weaker ones. Shipwreck is kind of a meta call right now. That probably would be cut if I just... It's a ladybug on my mouse. Okay. Sorry, that just completely threw me off. I was like, what is this little thing that I'm feeling on my finger? And it's just a little ladybug now hanging out on my mouse pad, and we'll deal with that later. So Shipwreck is also a wages target and kind of a meta call. I think it's just a really good dominant right now. So now I'm kind of wondering if Crowd's Choice is absolutely necessary, because I think it's either that or Angel of the Lord that gets cut in this case. And if I'm going between those two, I think my reasoning is kind of, Crowd's Choice is a little bit more versatile, because I can search for something that would win me the battles similarly to the way that Angel of the Lord would, and I can search for one of the pieces I want to set up my rescues, and using that every turn, with the eyes to see and everything. So as much as I like having Angel of the Lord in there, especially the Old Testament one, when I have David Heart After God to get that early, kind of free rescue, I do think I'm going to cut it. I think that I'm going to go with Crowd's Choice, and that's one of those things that I'm going to keep an eye on during testing. Be like, okay, in this game, did I really... if I had Angel of the Lord in this case instead of Crowd's Choice, would I be better off? Would I be more likely to win this battle? Or if I do have David in my opening hand and no other battle winner for him, or maybe Royal Parade isn't looking all that great, and I'm really wishing I could search for Angel of the Lord in this case, then that's something you'd want to consider as well, and think about, okay, was Crowd's Choice more useful later on in the game, or something like that. So that's one of the things to think about. And also, if you have the cross, or if you're maybe we'll end up putting in Fall of Man or Lacking Prophecy or something like that instead of the cross, that we're not hindering the authority of Christ and Tested by Fire plays. Then maybe it will be something else to consider if we're not necessarily going to be playing as many dominants during the battle phase, like Angel of the Lord. And then that's actually the kind of the way I'm leaning right now, especially just looking at this dominant lineup. Falling Away, maybe I want to play it during battle on defense, but Fall of Man doesn't require you to have, or it requires you to have an evil character in battle in order to restrict dominance. I'll just pull it up real quick, the Fall of Man. While you are rescuing or blocking, restrict players from dominance. You're only blocking if you have an evil character in battle doing the blocking. So it's not just if you are the blocking player, I guess, or if your opponent is attacking. While you are rescuing means while your hero is in battle rescuing. While you are blocking means that while you have an evil character in battle blocking. So it kind of tips a little bit in your favor, even though it's a relatively balanced card and that it restricts both players, or well, all players. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards right now instead of doing the cross. I'm trying to think if just there are any other benefits that it adds over the cross other than being played as an evil battle winner as a pinch. Yeah, I think that it's worth just putting in there and kind of thinking about it a little bit. So let's go ahead and now do the Lost Souls. Gonna think about what kind of Lost Souls I'm gonna want to use in here. Do I want to do OT Unity? Are there Lost Souls that are going to be more useful if I do a mix? Kind of what I'm thinking, if I choose the blocker, then negating band abilities might be kind of nice with Forsaken, because I can, maybe they have a bunch of or like Philistines or something, a lot of them have band abilities, and so no matter which one I choose, they're going to be able to bring in all of their evil characters anyway. So if I have Forsaken, then that can kind of mitigate some of those kind of things. Huh, my ladybug friend out there. There she is. It is. Maybe it's a man bug. Gentleman bug. Anyways, we'll put the Forsaken in there. They just made some room for my mouse by going to the edge of the mouse pad. Prosperity is usually a pretty good bet, especially if we have one of the fools that we just don't have another way to get rid of. Tossing one of those will be pretty good. I do think Punisher is pretty good right now. Good meta call. And again, I'm just kind of putting things in here, and we'll see kind of how things shake out. I think I have enough New Testament stuff on defense to maybe justify using Galileans, so we'll put it in there for now and see where it goes. Do a quick save here. We're not going to be New Testament Unity, so undesirables is maybe not necessary. Well, definitely not necessary, probably not going to be helpful. Complacent, I think, is reasonable in this deck. We may also want to be playing Chronicles during the battle, but we may also be able to swap that out for something if we just kind of build around not playing Dominance during battle. Let's see. I think Darkness is going to be pretty good in this defense that doesn't have too many evil characters, and you can grab Zacchaeus to make sure you have a hero, and we have some of the other dual alignment ones. Distressed, still pretty good. Exiles, not going to do us a whole lot. Same with Remnant. I think Humble is pretty good right now. You probably want that in most decks. So how many does that put us at right now? That puts us at 8 Lost Souls. You may also want to put Majestic Heavens in here because we don't have a whole lot of other soul gen options. We haven't incorporated too much of that, and it works well with Jeshua. So I think that's. We might as well just load up our token zone right now with a few Majestic Heavens tokens. So we've got 8 Lost Souls right now. I've got to cut one of them. My feeling is that Galileans is probably the weakest of them right now. I also think that I kind of skipped over Lawless here. Let's use the promo version. That one, I think it's just the value is just too good there to not include it, especially if you're not worried about Old Testament unity. Like that's if it's a Lost Soul, if it's a New Testament Lost Soul that goes into some decks that are running Covet and just kind of hope that they don't hit Lawless and Covet at the same time, that's means that it's probably good enough to be in here when I'm not going for OT Unity. So I think Aliens gets cut. We just don't the density of New Testament evil cards is just not super high in the deck. And then what else gets cut? Forsaken, I really like. Kind of want to keep that. Complacent just seems kind of fun. Kind of want to keep that. And it's cards like this that are not necessarily great, but they work well. If they work well in your deck, then you can definitely catch your opponent off guard a little bit and do some good stuff with it. So I think that either Punisher, Humble, or maybe yeah, I think probably Punisher or Humble right now are kind of the ones I'm leaning toward. I'm not sure how much we need Humble. Like, a lot of the stuff that we're going to be playing in battle is CVP or CBN. But I think just having the CVP option is pretty good. Let's keep it in there. I mean, because like an opponent's Punisher would be pretty punishing against heroes like Jeremiah and Simon, Matthew, all that that aren't CVP. So I think having that option would be quite good. So we're at 56 cards in the deck right now, and if I just kind of sat here and stared at it for a little bit longer, I'd probably think of other cards that I want to add, but I'll go ahead and kind of just move on to the next step in the process that I normally do after getting all of the cards into the deck and then kind of figuring out from there where I want to go. I would just do load entire deck to you, and I will just start sorting the deck, kind of laying it out as I would if I had the physical cards. I would just sort it with the Lost Souls and the Dominance, and then kind of utility cards, and then heroes, enhancements. Let me make this a little bit bigger for you guys. Other way. That seems pretty good. And then evil characters and evil enhancements. And I'll kind of speed this part up a little bit, or maybe skip to the end so that you guys don't have to sit through me sorting all of this. Alright, so now I've got it all sorted here, and we can kind of just like take in the whole deck all together. This kind of helps you see some of your ratios of characters to enhancements, and kind of helps you sort out like different types of cards. So now I can see like, okay, I've got 3 fools that I don't necessarily want to count as like the number of evil characters I have, so maybe I can keep those separate. I can sort it by battle winners and consistency cards, tutors, that kind of stuff. So it really just helps you kind of get a full perspective on your deck. And after you do this, you want to you can save the game that you're playing against the test on me. That way, if like it crashes, or maybe you make some changes and then you're like, actually, no, I want to go back, then you can just restore or load your saved game. And that way you don't have to go through the whole sorting process over again. That can be pretty annoying. So let's see. I kind of like where we're at here. I mean, it seems pretty compact, I guess, for a deck that I'm just putting together. Probably because I am trying to kind of keep it flowing and don't have a whole lot of time to just be like, oh, this idea, this idea, this idea. So I guess that's kind of the benefit of narrating a deck building process. I think Noah's Ark is one of the cards that should end up in reserve, something that we can get out with Emmaus Road, and for free, sort of. So we'll go ahead and come over here and put that into reserve, Noah's Ark, Ark of Salvation, and we can just actually load that to our reserve just to be able to see that. So these functions over here is actually are pretty useful for when you're building a deck like this and trying to visualize it. You can go to your deck and you can load certain things to different zones. So there's a load entire deck to you, which will do your deck, your reserve, and your tokens. But you can also just do what you're currently looking at in the current tab, and then do load to your deck or whatever. And now let's say like I want to add a certain card to my deck. I could be what would I want to add right now? Let's say I do want to add Zerubbabel's Temple or something. I guess I don't really want to add that. I don't think I'll need it at this point because I think the cross is coming out, and I think that these are kind of a good mix. Maybe I do want it. I don't know. Having 2 temple artifacts and it kind of opens me up for having both Book of the Law and Fall of Man active. I don't know. What do you guys think? Oh, no, that's a terrible idea. Why would you suggest that? Let's say I wanted to add... I've got Jehoshaphat, I've got Bathsheba, and I've got David. All that can play it, and it would probably help my consistency a little bit. I can just make sure my deck is saved. I can go to New Deck and just be like Solomon's Dream. Right here, can just add it to this this new deck, and then I can do load to your deck, and now it'll show up over here. I can drag it out, and okay, now I've got Solomon's Dream in here. And then you can go back into just do open recent, and it will open this up. And then don't forget to actually put Solomon's Dream into this deck. If I gotta put it in there and save that. So you want to, you still have to do it kind of in both places. As I'm choosing what cards to cut, I usually will, put them over to the side. So I'll put the cross over here for now, and then I will swap that to the removed zone over here once I have actually removed it from the deck. So if I'm just kind of wanting to take out a chunk of cards and I'm not really sure which ones I want to do, maybe I want to do this group or that group or something, then once I've made the decision, I come over here to the deck and be like, okay, I don't really want the cross anymore, so I'm going to take that out, save the deck, and then I can come back over here and remove it. It's no longer in the deck, don't need to consider it anymore. Let's see, what cards can go into reserve? Cards with discard abilities. You want to look for kind of your consistent reserve access cards, so discard abilities and good star cards are going to be cards that cloud cards, it's going to be cards that can go into reserve. So I think Faith of Samuel is one of those. You can go in here and can get it out with Faith. The reason Faith of Samuel is a pretty easy decision is because it's a card that is best when it's abandoned multiple heroes, which I'm going to have at the first turn. And you're only going to have access to a certain amount of cards in the first turn, so I don't necessarily want Faith of Samuel right away. If I just have one hero and Faith of Samuel is going to give me a whole lot. But that just seems like a fairly intuitive play, I guess, or easy decision to make. I think Jeremiah also can go into reserve. He's pretty good on the first turn, but not absolutely necessary, and he's one of the easier cards to pull out of reserve. It's something that maybe I would choose or should choose somebody different, or but I think he's just kind of a good gut reaction, and maybe I should be making a pile for these over here, since I haven't actually moved them into the reserve in the deck list yet. So other cards to consider moving over there, maybe Bathsheba, because having her on the first turn without David isn't all that exciting, all that great. But that maybe she's still fine having. I mean, David is fairly easy to get to with all of the star and cloud tutors with Emmaus Road, Faith, and Angel of the Winds, and then also Great White Throne. Pretty easy to get heroes out. So that's probably okay to leave her in there. I think we probably also want some counter cards. So I think Jonah could also go into the reserve here. He's also another green prophet that can use Eyes to See. And we'll go ahead and load that to the reserve, save that. So now we've got Noah's Ark and Jonah in there. Do we really need Delivered? Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heroes that can play it right away. Another couple of heroes in reserve that can play it. Yeah, I think that's still pretty good. Book of the Law on the first turn is very strong, so I think that's a reasonable inclusion. A lot of these gold heroes, so I kind of feel like another way to capitalize on all the gold we have. I mean, I guess these two are going to be mostly evil characters, but having Zacchaeus, Joshua, Jeshua, all as options for gold. I think Amazing Faith would be an okay option for the reserve here. So we'll go ahead and toss that in there and load that to reserve. Of course, it's going to put it in the backwards order every time. That's okay. We'll go ahead and move Jeremiah and Faith of Samuel over there. I think those are kind of safe bets. Faith of Samuel, Jeremiah, and we can just slide them on in here. Let's see here. What other consistency pieces could we add here? I think we want to have a little bit more drawing. This looks kind of very search heavy right now. So we want drawing that we can either play in battle. I think that Matthew is pretty solid in that regard, but also that's just one card that we have to get to. We want to kind of have it layered, have some options. I think that we have enough territory class stuff that we could go through, and prosperity and delivered. That Feast of Booths could be a decent inclusion in the deck, because it is purple and gold and teal for the character that doesn't even matter for, because he's also gold. I guess it matters for Jeremiah too, but yeah, I think Feast of Booths is decent here. So we'll go ahead and throw that. Do we want that in the main deck or in the reserve? Let's put it in the main deck. I kind of like it in there. And we can bring it into our game, quote-unquote game here. Maybe it'll move to reserve in a little bit, but with the speed that decks are going these days, having more speed in the decks, as much speed in the deck as possible, to get you going on turn 1 is recommended, I guess. So let's see, where are we at now? We're at 55 and 5. So if we can just find 5 cards to move over to the reserve, then we could call it good for now. I mean, just, testing wise. And I think that would be okay. We're already, getting up there on the video. I'm sure you guys are probably getting bored of me talking and looking at the deck and probably just want to see me play a game. So we'll get through the end of this one, and then you can jump on to the next one, or maybe go back to one you haven't seen if you're, all caught up. I think I want to put some cards with discard abilities in my reserve for wages to get out. Sheol is tempting because we're basically Crimson Unity. Deceiver, of course, I don't really count because it doesn't really stay on the territory. That's what I'm trying to say. The other option we could do, we could throw Doomed Canaanites in reserve. We can throw King of Tyrus in the deck because he can play Wages and Betrayal and Strike the Shepherd. And I think that's actually pretty decent amount of cards. I mean, you don't get the benefit of shuffling the heroes with Strike the Shepherd, but I think that's okay. What do you guys think? You think that's okay? That's probably okay. We could also throw Foreign Wives in reserve too, to just kind of get the whole benefit of it. Of course, we were trying to move cards from the deck into there, but whatever. Doomed Canaanites, throw that in reserve. I think we're going to be okay with just 2 Fools in the deck. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, that's probably fine. It's probably fine. Famous last words. But I think if we add King of Towers, then we're probably not going to need to, or probably not going to want Sheol. And I don't really want to count the Fools for the Unity either. But I do think, King of Towers probably makes it just a little bit too easy to lose that Unity. It is kind of tempting then to bring in Red Dragon and Partners with Demons and kind of do that whole thing with Simon as well. So basically, Simon the Magician makes anti-evil cards, so that includes evil characters, cannot be negated. So you can play Partners with Demons on him, which cannot be negated, and then ban 2 Red Dragon, make him cannot be negated. Which CBN protection from humans and ignoring of angels. Pretty good, by the way. This was more of a strategy back when Satan Enters Judas was a card that wasn't only in Classic. Well, when Classic, before Classic and Rotation existed, and it was just everything. You could do Satan Enters Judas and Partners of Demons, but that card is only Classic. It'd be kind of fun though with Judas. Judas also could ban to King of Towers, so that seems kind of fun. Let's see. Can we throw any of these characters in there? No, they don't really have discard abilities. Maybe we don't need Delivered and Great White Throne. Maybe we can just get rid of, or get away with the artifacts that we have here. We could consider just throwing in Emperor Nero and Daenerys, right? I mean, that's just kind of the thing that people are doing these days. What else do we want or do we need here? The other thing with Book of the Law is you can bounce your Fools if you do have to put them down for whatever reason. So that's another use for it, and I kind of just thought about that because I was thinking about if I want to use Book of the Covenant and maybe put some Covenants in reserve, but I don't think I really need to or want to go that route, I guess I could grab Foreign Wives and King of Tyrus and drop them in here. Foreign Wives, King of Tyrus. Load them to my deck, and we'll boop, boop. So KOT is going to be here. Foreign Wives is going to be here. I do kind of like the ability to bounce evil characters to give Matthew more brigades too. So maybe Oath of Purity in reserve with a Book of the Covenant thing is worth it. I don't know. I just don't know. Kind of wish that I could somehow use Faith of David to add Joshua and then get to Matthew. Don't think that there's an easy way to do that. Not that I can think of. You know, like band to a martyr, a gospel hero, or a disciple, which, yeah, most OT red guys don't let you do that. Like, if Jehoshaphat doesn't let you band to him, then nobody does. That's kind of how it works, right? But having another hero for Joshua to exchange to might be kind of nice. What are we looking at? We're now at 55 and 7. We're kind of moving backwards a little bit here, cards wise, but that's okay. I think if we can still find 3 cards to add to reserve and just play it, or stick with 52 for now, that's probably fine. Heroes wise, it only looks like we have 9 here, but we actually have technically 13 options to go for. And not all of them are going to do anything like super great for us, or like the gold ones are only going to be good if we have Emmaus Road. Even then, I'm not entirely sure what we go for first turn if we don't have a choose the blocker option. I guess maybe just David and Royal Parade. Elijah and Tested by Fire isn't bad by any means. Oh, that's what we do. Okay. Yep, so that's how we get this is how you go from Joshua to Matthew, is you have King Jehu who exchanges with a non-royal human in territory. Oh, that's just dumb and too easy. Yep. Alright, so now we've got Jehu, who he can actually go in reserve. Yeah, because he's got a discard ability and he's evil, so I think he goes in reserve. I don't have too many ways to get him out. Really, is it just wages? Maybe I'd do put it in Zerubbabel's Temple? No, probably not. Don't have enough post-exilic heroes to do the things. Oh, I guess I've got Book of the Law to top deck him too. Okay, I think that's probably okay. I think I have enough heroes to the point where Great White Throne isn't absolutely necessary, and if that's the case, then I'm also kind of flaky on Delivered. Just without too many heroes to play them on, so I think we'll cut them for now. And we're looking kind of slim on utility stuff over here, and I was talking about adding Majestic Heavens too, and now that I added Jehu to reserve, I think Majestic Heavens is looking even better. So I think we might have to make a couple of cuts on defense here as well. So I think Repentant Thief is going to have to come out. And so let's grab Majestic Heavens, put that in here. And we'll get rid of these 3. So, oops, that's not what I wanted. Great White Throne coming out, and Delivered is coming out, and what was the other card? Man of Withered Hand. Or not man. Repentant Thief. Repentant Thief is really good too. Well, Condemned Thief. Repentant Thief is reasonable. But alas, you gotta make decisions. They're gonna be tough sometimes. Alright. Majestic Heavens. Let's put it in there. We're at 53 with 8 in reserve. So 2 cards into the reserve. And we could just pick new cards, but we also have Majestic Heavens for reserve access now. So cards from the deck are fair game now. And we do have a good mix of New Testament and Old Testament Lost Souls. So cards, Majestic Heavens isn't really limited by that right now. I'm not going to spend the time bringing it into here because we're pretty close to the end. Strike the Shepherd is the kind of card that I really want to put into reserve, but I just don't have really enough ways to get it out. So I don't think that I can quite justify that. Something to take an Evil Star card from reserve might be kind of nice. Like a card that did that. Doesn't have to be like Emmaus Road or like Wages, that might be a little bit too much, but just, something that's relatively easy to take an Evil Star card from reserve. Why do I have my headphones in? I don't need these. I'm not actually listening to you guys. I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I sound so different now. We could put Tested by Fire in the reserve, and then, or actually Authority of Christ in reserve. Yeah, I kind of like it as an option for Matthew on turn 1, like if we draw into Authority of Christ and just have that ready to play on him. Because he doesn't have too many other options like that. But, I guess his main goal is really just to draw cards, and we might draw into something. So I think I could put Authority of Christ into reserve. And I think that actually, if we do that, we're at 9 cards in reserve, because we have something else in here that we've got Jehu in there, that's right. I think that actually... something I've kind of wanted to incorporate in a deck for a while is using Fountain of Living Water and then Authority of Christ in reserve, and I think that this is a good opportunity to do that because we've got a lot of star cards in reserve that Fountain of Living Water can get out, kind of help out Emmaus Road a little bit, and being able to play it in battle and just add the star card right to battle. Really good with Jeremiah, really good with Amazing Faith, and really good with Authority of Christ. So that seems pretty good. I'm happy about that, and I'm willing to play at 53 for that. And then I have to decide what other card to move in there. Or does Fountain of Living Water just go into reserve? Because it doesn't do anything on the first turn. Well, I guess on the first turn it still has its star ability that gets that nice little draw too. We do have plenty of heroes that we could set aside, especially the dual alignment ones, that we can set them aside and then they go back to hand so we can play them on the other side. Ooh. Does Eyes to See go in the reserve? Yeah, I guess I don't really need that on the first turn, do I? Yeah, see, there you go. Eyes to See goes in the reserve because we're not going to need it until turn 2. I guess if we do happen to assemble all of the pieces on the first turn where we give them a Fool, we have Faith of David, and we have a Choose the Blocker hero, and Joshua, and an OT Prophet. And I'm going to want it. The odds seem a little bit slim, but yeah, I think that that's the way to go for now. So Eyes to See. Let's drop that in the reserve. We're at 52 cards. Right before we end the video here, we gotta kind of hit the last part of my deck building process, which is usually just doing a goldfish, doing a few of them, just doing a few test draws and kind of seeing where we can get. This one looks really solid, no Fool, but this looks like a very fortunate draw, I guess. I mean, like, oh, okay. So we've got Jehoshaphat, which we could play as Meek to do Solomon's Dream right away. I'm scared to play Jehoshaphat as Meek because he's usually the guy that you play to bounce your other Meek heroes. So I think the first thing I would do is put down Simon, and I guess obviously I'd use the star ability on Solomon's Dream to look at their hand. If I were going first, put down Simon, play Faith. Don't want to tip off that I have Matthew quite yet, and just think about who I would, or like think about what I want to do, because now playing Faith, it kind of gives me a good reminder of what's all in my deck, and maybe once you've been playing a deck for a while, you'd be like, okay, I know exactly the route I would go with this opening hand, but since I just built this deck, I'm still trying to figure it out, and so this is what my usual goldfish would look like. So I already have Faith of David, so my targets for Faith are, the best ones are going to be David and Joshua. If they don't have anything to underdeck, then Joshua isn't really necessary, so I'm probably going to go for David, especially because I can convert him to Meek and then use Solomon's Dream afterwards if I want / need to. I'm trying to think, though, now as I'm looking through my deck, like, is there anything I'd want to search for with Solomon's Dream before I attack? And that would kind of, I think, because I got to look at their hand, that's what that's going to be based off of. I'd think, okay, how many cards am I going to get to draw of Matthew? And is there anything else I will need to win the battle here? And you can kind of approach that however you want with the gold fishing, because there's really no way to do that unless you unless you're actually testing against someone. There is a way where you can test the deck against a different deck in Lackey, which is basically if I were to just take this entire deck, load it into the test dummy deck, and have everything in there, and then I go back to the deck editor and load the other deck to me. So I'm not going to go through all of that in this video. Hopefully that was easy enough to understand. I can go over it real quick again. So maybe I'm gonna take this priest deck that I'm working on right now. It's too many cards, and don't have it quite ready for you guys yet. You can see it's still very much in the process of being cut down with all these dominants. But I could just do load entire deck to you. I can put it in here. It'll show up in my deck. I can drag all of these cards over to the test dummy zones, so put it all in the deck over there. I guess there is the other, or that's one way to do it. So you drag them all over into the test dummies zones, and then you just kind of control the test dummy from there. The other thing you can do is you can just open another Lackey client. Because it's an executable like this, you can open 2 instances of Lackey at the same time, and so you can open another one. You can connect to the server, you go into preferences, and on one of them change the name, so change this to the Jailer 2, and then you can connect to the server on both of them and connect to your own game. So that's the other way you can do it, if you're that committed to it, I guess, and that'll be easier to kind of actually play the game from both sides. But if you're just doing test draws, it's easy enough to just drag cards over to the test dummy zones. Just kind of whatever your preference is, I guess, in that regard. So I can put down Faith of David, and I have David ready to go. I also have Jehoshaphat ready to go because he is a royal hero. Actually, what I could do in this case, if there's something that I know they have in their hand and like it's their only way to block, I can put David down as meek. I can play Solomon's Dream, search for whatever I want, and then during battle I use Faith of David to add Jehoshaphat, bounce David, and then band him in. But obviously I'd want to start out with Matthew, convert him to meek, reveal their hand, draw a bunch of cards, and let's just say it's a you try to be kind of reasonable with your gold fishing. I try to kind of err on the lower side, I guess. 4 cards. It's anywhere between, I guess, 0 if they're playing that 43 artifact deck, and 16 if they have a multicolor good and multicolor evil card in their hand. Then it just hits all brigades. But I think 4 is kind of a good, not really an average. It's probably lower than average, at least with today's decks. If you were just looking at my opening hand, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 just with my opening hand. So it's a pretty that's probably maybe more around average these days, depending on the deck you run into. But I just went with a kind of conservative guess with 4. So Jehoshaphat, bounce David, band to him. And I'm not going to go too much further with this. Sometimes I'll go a few turns in, especially if it's a really complicated deck or something that I really want to see more of what it can do, or if it's a deck that kind of like plays itself. Like this deck, it relies a lot on what your opponent has, and I think that it's what I'm going to be better off testing in this deck is, oops, this is the wrong deck. It's the all priest deck. We're gonna get to that one eventually, but I think the more important thing to do with this deck would just be to do test draws like this and see, just play out a draw and see what you get if you have a good attack, if you have a good block, or just play out a first turn. And that's usually what I get my information from, and that'll even show me sometimes like what cards to cut, what cards to swap out, or what cards to move into reserve, or what cards from reserve I want in the main deck, that kind of thing. So those are just some tips and tricks for once you have a deck kind of in the final stages, ready to, or almost ready to take it out against a real opponent and try it. But that's kind of just my whole deck building process. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope this was useful for some of you who are kind of getting into building your own deck, and hopefully it wasn't too boring for all of you who are like, oh yeah, I've built so many decks already, like I don't know, I just want to see you play the game. This is kind of just what I had time for, availability this week. Kind of no more Lackey Grand Prix to kind of force me to schedule a game, and I didn't really have a new deck ready. I was working on that other one, and that actually kind of just gave me the idea. I was like, oh, I'm doing this deck building process. Maybe I could share it with the community, and I've got this other deck that I was thinking of building that we'll probably put out there at some point. I'll put this list down in the description if you guys do want to try it out and think it looks like fun, or if you want to kind of flesh it out better than I did now in this short time, well, short-ish time. But yeah, anyways, I think that's where we're gonna wrap this game, or that's where we're gonna wrap this video up. Clearly, I've been talking too long. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we'll catch you next time.